Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam namaskritya Naram chaiva narottamam Devim saraswatim vyasam Tato jayamudirayet Nashtaprayeshu bhadreshu Nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavati uttama shloke Bhaktir bhavati naishtike. Reading from Srimad Bhagvatam, Canto 11, Chapter 11, chapter entitled The Symptoms of Living Entities, text number 29 to 32. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kripalur Akrit Drohas Titikshuha Sarvadehinam Satyasaro Anavadyatma Samaha Sarvopakarakaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kripalurakrit Drohas Titikshu Sarvadehinam Satyasaro Navadyatma Samaha Sarvopakarakaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kripalurakrit Drohas Titikshu Sarvadehinam Satyasaro Navadyatma Samaha Sarvopakarakaha. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kripalur Akrit Drohas Titikshu Sarvadehinam Satyasaro Navadyatma Sama Sarvopakarakaha. Mataji's. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Kripaluhu, unable to tolerate the suffering of others. Akritadroha, never injuring others. Titikshuhu, forgiving. Sarvadehinam, toward all living entities. Satyasaraha, one who lives by truth and whose strength and firmness come from truthfulness. Anavadya Atma, a soul free from envy, jealousy, etc. Samaha, whose consciousness is equal both in happiness and in distress. Sarva Upakarakaha, always endeavoring as far as possible for the welfare of all others. So there are a few more verses and then we'll read the translation. Kamair ahatadhir danto mridosu cherakinchana aniho mitabhuks shantah sthiro macharano munihi aprammato gabhiratma dhritiman jita sadguna amani manadah kalyo maitra karunikah kavihi agyayevam gunan doshan mayadishtanapi swakan dharman santajyah sarvan mam bhajeta satu sattama. So translation, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O Uddhava, a saintly person is merciful and never injures others. Even if others are aggressive, he is tolerant and forgiving toward all living entities. His strength and meaning in life comes from the truth itself. He is free from all envy and jealousy, and his mind is equal in material happiness and distress. Thus, he dedicates his time to work for the welfare of all others. His intelligence is never bewildered by material desires and he has controlled his senses. His behavior is always pleasing, never harsh, and always exemplary, and he is free from possessiveness. He never endeavors in ordinary worldly activities and he strictly controls his eating. He therefore always remains peaceful and steady. A saintly person is thoughtful and accepts me as his only shelter. Such a person is very cautious in the execution of his duties and is never subject to superficial transformations because he is steady and noble, even in distressing situations. He has conquered over the 6 material qualities, namely hunger, thirst, lamentation, illusion, old age, and death. He is free from all desire for prestige and offers honor to others. He is expert in reviving the Krishna consciousness of others and therefore never cheats anyone. Rather, he is a well-wishing friend to all, being most merciful. Such a saintly person must be considered the most learned of men. He perfectly understands that the ordinary religious duties prescribed by me in various Vedic scriptures possess favorable qualities that purify the performer, and he knows that neglect of such duties constitutes a discrepancy in one's life. Having taken complete shelter at my lotus feet, however, a saintly person ultimately renounces such ordinary religious duties and worships me alone. He is thus considered to be the best among all living entities. So we'll read the purport, but before that, there have been so many qualities that have been put forth here. You know, sometimes in Rath Yatra, devotees from the Rath cart, they kind of throw prasad at people so that people can catch it. So one may not be able to catch all the packets that is thrown into the crowd, but one would be able to get a few. So this is like qualities being put out there. And if we are attentive, then maybe we could focus on a few qualities, and those qualities would help us develop into or would take us to another level of devotional practice. So now we'll read the purport. Purport by the disciples of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we are reading from quality number 10, Mridu. Mridu. A materialistic person will always see people as friends or enemies, and thus will sometimes justify cruel or small-minded behavior in order to subdue his opponents. Since a devotee has taken shelter of Lord Krishna, he does not consider anyone his enemy and is never disturbed by the tendency to desire or enjoy the suffering of others. Thus he is mridu, or gentle and sublime. 11. Suchi. A devotee never touches that which is impure or improper, and simply by remembering such a pure devotee, one is freed from the tendency to sin. Because of his perfect behavior, a devotee is called Suchi, or pure. Akinchan. A devotee is free from possessiveness and is not eager to enjoy or renounce anything, since he considers everything to be Lord Krishna's property. Aniha. 13. Aniha. A devotee never acts on his own behalf, but rather for the service of Lord Krishna. He is therefore aloof from ordinary worldly affairs. 14. Mitbhuk. A devotee accepts material sense objects only as far as necessary to keep himself healthy and fit in Lord Krishna's service. He is therefore not entangled by his sense activities and never injures his self-realization. When necessary, a devotee can give up anything for Lord Krishna's service, but he does not accept or reject anything for his personal prestige. 15. Shanta. Those trying to exploit the Lord's creation are always disturbed. A devotee, however, is detached from such pointless activities and understands sense gratification to be diametrically opposed to his self-interest. Being always engaged according to the Lord's desire, he remains peaceful. 16. Sthira. Remembering that Lord Krishna is the basis of everything, a devotee does not become fearful or impatient. 17. Mat Sharana. A devotee does not take pleasure in anything except serving Lord Krishna and is constantly attentive in the execution of his duties. A devotee knows that only Lord Krishna can perfect him and engage him in useful work. A devotee knows that only Lord Krishna can protect him and engage him in useful work. 18. Muni. A devotee is thoughtful and through intelligent contemplation avoids becoming distracted from his spiritual advancement. By intelligence, he is freed from doubts about Lord Krishna and confronts all problems in life with steady Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnanatirmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharini Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today morning, Lord Krishna is speaking to Uddhava and is describing so many qualities of his devotee. And he says that ultimately his devotee renounces everything and just takes shelter of him. That is how he is concluding this particular section, this particular series of verses, 4 verses. Dharman santijya yah sarvan. So here, Dharman Santajya completely renounces the principles that are not the primary qualities which attract the Supreme Lord to a devotee. So there are primary qualities and there are secondary qualities as usual. And the very interesting thing in this material world is that the secondary qualities are always numerous. That is why they are secondary. Always. Whenever there is something very important, let's say you go to sign a bank document, you kind of want to get a legal statement done. So there will be the main statement and then there will be the fine print. And the fine print would be so much. So the secondary things, they embellish the primary. Hence the primary has to be very concise, has to be very specific, straightforward. The secondary is more numerous. The primary is very explicit and hence concise. In this material world, the desire to accumulate things is very strong. It does happen. Many times I have related this incident. I was walking down the street towards Grand Road Station and they had pulled up all the surface of the street, had been kind of plowed upon, it had been kind of just dug up. They dug up the entire street and they were replacing it with new tar, a new surface. And so this layer gets put onto the dug up street, the dug up road, and then slowly it kind of just cools down and it solidifies and becomes the new layer. Things get stuck in that layer. Certain things kind of get stuck. And occasionally, if the street is, if it is a newly paved street, a newly paved road, then there are various situations like the one I faced. I was walking down the street and this was the time when the old 500 rupee notes had just been issued. So 500 rupee notes, like till then the denominations were like 100 and 1,000. So there was this 500 rupee note that had been stuck in the tar such that it seemed to be fallen on the street. So I had to catch, you know how people in Mumbai are, we are very much tuned to catching our local trains on time. In fact, we know every particular 3-second delay or 3-minute delay between different trains that go running. Those who kind of use local trains, the suburban trains. So I was in a rush, but that 500 rupee note there stopped me in my tracks for a moment. Now I was in the middle of the street and I was kind of wondering what I should do further. But as soon as I stopped, there was this street side, you may call, resident, a person who's constantly there on that street. You can see them permanently there. So a street side resident was there. And he looked at me and he said, "Maharaj, aap bhi?" Yes. So people have certain ideas. Everyone knows what is the best. Kind of growing up in India, you know what is the goal of life. I mean, everyone tried from the Middle Eastern oppressors, invaders, to European invaders. Everyone did try to see if they could change the fabric and the culture of this country. Unfortunately, they could not. And the very fabric and culture of this country is that most of us, whether we accept it or not, we believe in another existence. We believe that there is a parallel existence. We believe that there is life after death. We believe that there is a soul. This is how this country is. Predominantly, this is the mood, this is the culture. What can you do? when I was studying, I was graduating, so one of my friends was a die-hard atheist. That is what he claimed himself to be. So later on, I became a devotee, or at least I'm still trying to be a devotee, but I joined the movement, and he called me up one day and he said, hey, would you want to come he was just opening up his business, his new, let us say, storefront. Very lucrative business, in India especially. You know, if somebody graduates to that field, their TRP ratings on the dowry market goes up, something like that. No, still it is like that. So this person opened up his storefront, his shop, and he said, would you want to come for Ganesh Puja? And I said, but what about your atheism? He said, that is what I believe in, but just in case something goes wrong, so let us just get this thing done. Just in case. So this is India. What can you do? Right? Unfortunately, because of so many external influences and also internal turmoil, we have so much baggage from our previous lifetimes. So, and we are not sure where we are coming from, right? When Srila Prabhupada, he was trying to resolve some issues amongst devotees, and they came up to him. And Srila Prabhupada said, you're not sure whom you're dealing with. What if they had been demigods in the previous lifetime? Just look around yourself, look around each other. Wow, this must be a demigod from a previous lifetime. So for the moment, the way that devotees looked at each other changed. So we are not sure where we are coming from. We could have been coming from another planet. We could have been coming from another country on this planet. So all that baggage is there. The impressions are there. Yes? So there is internal turmoil. There's so much of internal, our consciousness is in such a state of constant flux. We are really not sure moment to moment what is it that we really want. Correct? I mean, some of us may want to have some better situation financially, and as soon as there is even a samosa on the street, the 20 rupees comes out for a samosa. Otherwise, one would want to save that 20 rupees. Because financially, one wants to keep what is good finances, money with us. One wants to keep money with us. But then a samosa kind of, well, let's just spend this 20 rupees now. So we are not really sure exactly what we want. Yes. So, because of this constant turmoil that is within, and this is an issue that many of us face, many moments in our life. And the external environment, the focus always is on secondary qualities, on secondary things. The reason is because they are so numerous. So rather than have a good wholesome meal, one will look at so many items of fast food. So rather than have nice 4 bhakris and with little chutney, because that provides your vitamins, it provides you the necessary element for igniting your fire, and the bhakri gives you your carbs and your proteins. So you have your carbs, you have your proteins, you have your vitamins, and if you have milk, then you get your fats too, along with the proteins. But rather than do that, one will go shopping, mall shopping, buy something that is with added vitamins, buy something else that has added minerals, buy something else that has added this and added that. Why is that? Why is there is so much expansion of consumable items in this world? Because those are the secondary features that people focus on. And the primary essential quality, which is very explicit, concise, and the most necessary, that gets pushed to the background. That gets completely pushed to the background. Like Recently, I was having this conversation with a devotee, and we were talking about how so many things get kind of pushed to the forefront. Like a statement that if you attend strictly the morning program for so many years, then whatever you speak will be the truth. Now that is what Yudhishthira Maharaj was trying to do. So in the lectures, we kind of say that Arjun was surrendered to Krishna and Yudhishthira Maharaj had a moment of confusion. So is that the primary thing? No. Can secondary things be discarded? No. However, one must be focused on what is the primary attribute. So the primary attribute is Krishna is all attractive without a doubt, whether we know it or not. Now, for most of the young people or even the adults here growing up in the educational system in India, none of us ever had an idea what 10th standard grades meant. Everyone around us told us, do very well in 10th standard and your career would blossom. We had no idea what is career, and we had no idea what are grades. We trusted. Everyone said, we trusted. Practically speaking, even now we don't have any idea about it. And then comes the 12th standard grades. By the time you're done with your engineering or your LLB, your accountancy, by the time you're done with that, the entire experience is like coming to Mangal Aarti, and by the end of it you realize, oh, I sung these Samsara Davanal prayers already. The prayers are done. By the time you realize that one must be focused on what Vande Guru Shri Charana Ravindam, the entire thing is over. You're like, all right, tomorrow I'll start over again. Right? So similarly, the whole experience in a certain environment is like that. It is helpful. Let us take the good part out of it. The good part is, even if we have no realization of it right now, if there are realized people or people who are convinced about it and it has been explicitly stated somewhere as beneficial, let us just accept it. Let us do it. We aren't doing so bad by simply accepting the fact that those grades were important. None of us is doing really bad. So similarly, we may not have experience about how Krishna is all attractive and how one must surrender completely to Krishna because it is the most powerful experience ever. Still, let us do it. And the other secondary qualities, they become ornaments. They become ornaments to decorate oneself. So here, there are so many qualities that have been mentioned, and we read about 9 of them today. They have been described, and they are all very attractive. And just listen to just 1 or 2 of them again and see how attractive they are. I mean, they kind of pull you towards them like, yes, from today onwards, this is what I'm going to do. A devotee knows that the material world is a temporary... Oh, sorry, I did not read this. Let me go to this. Remembering that Lord Krishna is the basis of everything, a devotee does not become fearful or impatient. Immediately one is like, yes, I mean, I can be so patient, I can be so fearless. Well, today there is a situation in the outside world. There is some political situation. We are trying to find out whether it is safe enough to go out or not. So immediately we are challenged. Should we just try and portray ourselves to be what we are not? Tismar Khan, you know the story of Tismar Khan? So there is this person called Tismar Khan. He was not called Tismar Khan. He was a shopkeeper selling some sweetmeats, some sweets. Many flies. So one day he got a fly swatter and started swatting flies. And being a very, let's say, illiterate person, he was very excited that he was getting some score. So 2, 4, 15, 30. So the people around, they started calling him Tismar Khan. the one who has swatted 30 flies, but explicitly that was not mentioned. It was not Tis Makhi Markha. Nothing like that. It was just Tis Markha. So over the years, the country was facing a situation of war with another country, and this country was being severely defeated. So the king needed some person to be very, very, somebody who could enthuse the entire army. So they started drafting people and they started making inquiries, and then the king heard about Tis Markha. Now he had already developed his Facebook page and his, got blue text and everything. He had his Instagram profile and everything done, so why wouldn't anyone do that? So the king heard of him. The king said, appoint him as a commander-in-chief. He said, wow, let me be the... He was a little illiterate. He did not realize what he was getting into. He just accepted being drafted. And there he was in front of the army, and he looked at this huge army with all of their weapons and everything looking so fierce. And he said, where am I? So his assistant said, sir, you're the commander-in-chief. This is a war. He said, what is a war? So they explained everything to him, and then he realized, oh boy, thousands have been killed before me, and especially those who are on the front lines. And here I'm on the front line. He said, I don't want this. He couldn't get off the horse because this was the first time he was on the horse. So to keep him on the horse, that actually tied him to the saddle. Really tied him up. Couldn't hold his sword. So the other commanders, they realized who he was. But right now the situation is, if he did not perform, the whole army would be completely depressed. So he had to perform. So they tied the sword to his hand, and he was like, no, 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 please. And it seemed as if he was waving his sword and things like that. And suddenly his horse just bolted and ran towards the other army. And his entire army started shouting, Tis Markha, Tis Markha, Tis Markha. Nobody was following him. So the opposite army, when they saw this person coming up, they said, who is he? Come on, do Google search. So they searched on Google and they found Tis Markha. Oh my God, this person kills people in hordes. Like, at any given moment, he can kill at least 30. They were so dejected just reading that. The commanders, they said, well, we are not fighting. They ran away. And that became the legend of Tis Markha. Can we imagine how legends get established? Some of them get established in this world. Yes? So can we do what we are not in a state of, what we are not in a position to do? Maybe not. Because when legends do get made, many of the legends do not end well for the person who becomes a legend. Yes? That's how legends get made. Like Thakur Haridas is a legend. Imagine getting beaten up through 22 marketplaces. When we go for book distribution, if we are not able to get good response from 2 places, we are like, maybe I should come tomorrow. So 2 shops beat us down. So that's where we are. And therefore secondary qualities become very important, because when the sun is not up, glowworms appear attractive. Glowworms achieve prominence. And it is these glowworm-like qualities that Krishna is saying, Dharman Santajya. A devotee finally realizes, when one has the glorious brilliance of the shelter of Krishna, which is the sun, then all the other qualities just fade away. In the sense, they just become ornaments. Yes, they just become ornaments. Like ornaments, if the personality is not very good, then the ornaments, however attractive, fool those who are attracted by the secondary qualities and not the primary. Yes. So even a donkey can be ornamented, or Sarpa vibhushitaha. Sarpa mani vibhushita. A snake is ornamented. But one is dangerous and the other is simply useless. What does a donkey, an ass need with ornaments? So there are so many wonderful qualities here described about how a devotee is very considerate about service to Krishna and is alert, not just intelligent, but is very alert to the fact that one must not be distracted by exit ways. Sometimes there are exit ways. About 2 decades ago, our friend Madan Gopal Prabhu and a couple of us, we were trekking through the Himalayas. We got into our head that we would do it the sadhu way. No. It was not a brahmachari yatra, the one that is taken out for 18 days. We were just on our own. And we were trying to just find out where the tirthas are and walk. And occasionally, as you're walking through the hills and these mountains and you're trying to climb up these mountains and again go down one valley, it is an unending journey. If one is not used to it, then one feels that just this mountain and we are done, and then one realizes that one has to go down the valley on the other side and go up another mountain slope for kilometers. So what seems attractive are shortcuts. Shortcuts seem very attractive. And there is always this tendency, is there a shortcut here? Is there a shortcut here? Now people have been using those beaten up tracks, those Paulwat that we say, the countryside, those footpaths. They have been using it for generations with a reason behind it. But being completely immature and not used to such, we take shortcuts, and sometimes those shortcuts actually brought us to a cliff face, complete fall. All of a sudden, the bushes just disappear and it's a ravine, a shortcut. Sometimes shortcuts work. Yes? So why is that? Because there is always this purpose, this achievement that I have to reach there, and after that what? No idea. Absolutely no idea what to do after one has reached one's goal. The only idea is, once I've done that, come back home. So most of our activities in this material world are just like that. You go out, struggle hard, and do what? Come back home and rest. And what is home? Home is the place which for the moment makes you feel safe, but you realize that to maintain that situation, you have to go out and work again. And that's how, in every aspect of life, even in spiritual life, once, this is a very simple, prominent example. Srila Prabhupada finished his rounds, he was with certain devotees, and to make a point, he did Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, and he said, there, I finished my 16 rounds, and he put his bead bag aside. Now what? Go back home. Go back to that corner of the room or the place or a situation which is our home. Isn't it? Like animals on the street, have you seen dogs, what they do? They find their own little space, and as soon as they're done with their feeding, their eating, their defense and everything else, they go and curl up in that place. A cow does that. A pigeon does that. And a human also does that. Go back to the place where they feel we don't have to work anymore because our work is done. This goes completely against the nature of the soul. The soul is ever active. And hence we have to, these qualities help us introspect. That the secondary goals are also not perfectly done. So the primary, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done, and it has to be done this very lifetime. Many of you may not know one devotee, Nitai. born and raised in the US. And you were very helpful, very kind-hearted. Took up to Krishna consciousness. So one particular year, we were just discussing that the next time I visit him, what are we going to do? And a couple of months in his late 20s or maybe early 30s, just early 30s, just married, was about to raise a family, was coming out of a gas station, a petrol pump. For a moment, distracted, was on the phone. A truck hit him. And like even in a residential area, it was like 40 miles an hour, which is under speed limits. But 40 miles an hour is like 60 kilometers an hour. And this was a completely overloaded truck. Finished. All our plans are gone. So, time is finite, time is limited, even 100 years is very limited. We need to focus on that which is essential. So, one of the primary qualities of a devotee is that, it has been mentioned previously also by Lord Krishna, is that a devotee takes complete shelter of Krishna. And because one has taken complete shelter of Krishna, one of the symptoms that is exhibited is that one is unfazed. However, being unfazed seems to be a quality of a yogi. And therefore, the same, that sthirta, that being unfazed, unmoved, that quality is reflected by the word forgiving. A devotee is very forgiving, and the first thing that a devotee does is forgive oneself for all the guilt trips that one is on. One improves and forgives oneself for being an insignificant part and parcel of Krishna, being covered up in ignorance. Forgives a situation that put a person in so many different places, and forgive others. For example, and this quality also makes a devotee very considerate. These are all secondary qualities. The primary quality is being completely satisfied under the shelter of Krishna. Being completely satisfied. In Aurangabad, the devotees there, the congregation, they are getting geared up for Janmashtami. So all the devotees are going out and they are seeking donations to help people serve Krishna. You serve by giving, and many of the responses are like, thank you for approaching us. This is still Maharashtra, interior Maharashtra, that has not been touched by the cosmopolitan nature of cities. They're happy. Thank you, because we would never have come. And you actually are blessing us by coming up to us and helping us serve. People are, many responses like that. So in one place, there is this child, a 5-year-old child. So the devotees, they approached this particular street that had a few houses and, a building with flats in it. So they were being a little timid. The 5-year-old comes out and says, Auntie, like, speaks in Marathi, Kaku, Zorat mara, Zorat khatkat kela pahiye. Hit hard, make a sound. They are all sleeping. They won't hear you if you are timid. And then he goes and says, pick me up. So they had to pick him up, and then he goes bang bang. And the door opens up and the people are like, maybe they were doing some activities, whatever. So when they are approached, they are happy. And then this boy says, do you know this place? Have you ever been here on a street? They say, no. Come, I'll take you around. A 5-year-old child, naturally attracted because maybe That is what for five years has been seen going around in his house, has heard, maybe from a previous lifetime, whatever. And then he says, "Tumhe amchakade nahi alat. You did not come to our house." So he runs up to the terrace, this is just a 2-level house, so there is a ground floor and then there is the upper floor. He goes to the terrace and he calls his mother. And his mother is so very, when the devotees say that you have such a wonderful child, she says, "Well, this is Krishna's grace and your mercy." And she offers a donation. So child does not have any filters. A child does not know what is a mall. A child does not know, diplomacy. A child does not know, let me protect my status, my position. A child does not understand what is prestige. However, if a child is offered understanding of what is pure service, then see how active the child is. Well, a word of caution, parents, please take care of your children. Don't let them run around with strangers. That is a word of caution in today's times. However, certain places are safe. Everyone knows everyone else. Still, like many of us may really not know most of our neighbors around here. But there are still places in this country where everyone knows everyone else. It's a whole big house with rooms separated by streets. That's it. An entire big family. So that is a quality that we see. Like whoever knew Sridhar Kolavich or Kolabecha, whoever knew Kola, he would sell items that would be received from the banana plant, the plantain plant. So, Kola Bech, he would do that. That was his business. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and this is the Mahaprakasha Leela, this is the Mahasangam of any, Maha festival. It says, "Call Sridhar." And people look around like there are a couple of Sridhars here. But they realize this is not the Sridhar that the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is looking for. So he says, go down the banks of the Ganga, and the place where you hear someone very plaintively and desperately chanting Hare Krishna, that is Sridhar. Just imagine trying to find out an identity of a person with those credentials. Now, is it easy? Well, when we read it, it is very easy. Oh, this must be so wonderful. All you have to do is go around looking. Let's do that. So difficult. Devotees had faith. As they were going along the Ganga doing Sankirtan, they heard this loud cry. It was as if piercing the very coverings of the universe. And although this was a very powerful chanting, crying out of the Lord's names, none of them had ever heard about this person and his chanting. It was not reported in the newspapers, it was not on FM, Radio Mirchi, nothing. So, before we try and make ideas about how glorious Sridhar is, try and understand how unknown Sridhar is. How unknown. And they finally find him. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is brought in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is very happy with him. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals his beautiful spiritual form to him as Krishna and Balaram, explains to him that how he is an eternal associate of him in Braj. And then he says, ask for a boon. And Sridhar practically had no idea what a boon is. In fact, he had never heard of thing like Shruti Fal or Siddhi. He had never heard any concept of if you do so many Ekadashis, Nirjal, then this is what you get. He had never heard about the Mahatmya of Kartik Vas. None of that. So ask a boon from me, a benediction from me. And Sridhar couldn't ask anything. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to explain to him what is a boon. He said, like, Sridhar, you have a house, I can give you a palace. And Sridhar's like, why would I need a palace? I could give you an entire kingdom. I could make you the ruler of an entire planet. Now those things Sridhar could understand. I can give you the post of Indra or Brahma. Now Sridhar was educated in that. He knew what are the responsibilities and what is the prestige that comes along with the post of Indra and Brahma. And he is not trying to, Sridhar is not trying to, get more followers on Facebook by his comments. No, that is very natural for him. Now sometimes we have to be very careful how we respond, especially on social media. It was very natural for Sridhar. He said, what will I do with all of that? Finally, Lord Chaitanya had to just kind of agree with Sridhar's proposal that, my dear Lord, let me always be very faithful towards your holy names. And Lord Chaitanya was like, what is the use of me having all this Shadaishwarya? And all my devotees demanding of me is just, let me have faith in the holy names. Yeah. Srivas Thakur, Lord Chaitanya tells him, even if Lakshmi Devi goes bankrupt, imagine if Lakshmi Devi going bankrupt, demonetization. If Lakshmi Ji brings in demonetization, everything's kind of finished. Sridhar, you shall know no want. That's a big statement that Lord Chaitanya is making. Now Sridhar did not go and take a selfie with Lord Chaitanya and post it on social media. Hey man, I did it. Life is perfect. Like sometimes we hear something from a spiritual master, we post it immediately. This is what spiritual master told me. How did the story get out? Good things always get shared. Somehow. That is the arrangement by Lord Brahma in this creation. Bad things spread through different avenues. Negativity does spread rampantly. But that which is positive gets shared more effectively. So here Lord Krishna is describing all of this. He is like, not all of this is like someone who sees that there are no customers here, so is trying to give some additional benefits. ये लॉलीपॉप देते हैं 5% एक्स्ट्रा दे देंगे आपको ले लो. Come, become attracted to Krishna's, serving Krishna wholeheartedly. And along with that, we'll give you all these qualities of Shanta, Sthira, Mat Sharana. We'll give you all of that. So devotee, as practicing devotees, it is important that we preserve this principle and hand it over to the next generation. That is our responsibility. We could be like postmen, inadequate in ourselves, but at least deliver the product. First preserve it properly, keep it safe, and deliver it further. And the more we handle products diligently like that, the more we would want to have such products within our lives too. The more a postman, a person who's illiterate handles, let's say money orders, the more the desire would be that at least let my son grow up and not do this, or my daughter grow up and not do this. Let her have a better life. So let us handle our practices as diligently as we can and hand over principles to the next generation. So jari dekha tare kaha Krishna upadesh, amar agya guru hai tara itesh. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Any questions or comments? Grantharaj Srimad Bhagvatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.